Hello everybody, welcome. It's Juliet here. Today we are going to learn how to make this beautiful earring, which is called Selkie's Secret. And if you stay till the end, I'm going to tell you a little story to go with the earring, okay? But right now I'll skip forward because some people might not be interested in that. So all of the supplies that we need to make this earring came out of the Mystic Tides collection from Eureka Beads. And if you're interested in learning more about that, I will put a link down below. So if if you're like, oh, I really like the beads that I used, well, they're all out of that collection, okay? And including the earring wire, the earring stud and the jump ring, everything came out of that, okay? So the main component of this earring is an 18 millimeter by 9 millimeter Navette, fancy crystal. This is a Krakovski fancy crystal. It's so pretty. I love this color. Absolutely just love it. So if you don't have this and you want this color, you can look on the website at the collection, and if you scroll down, each item that's in the collection is listed and you can just add individual items to your cart. So if you're like, oh my goodness, I love that Navette, I wish I had it, you can go down, scroll down and just buy it straight out of the collection page, which is really, really handy. Okay, so aside from our Navette, you're going to need 3 sizes of Bicones. So we got a little Bicone collection within our collection. So we have 4 millimeter, these are all Preciosa. So we have 4 millimeter, I believe these are light amethyst AB. Then we have some 3 millimeter, which are these gorgeous blue ones. I do not recall the color off the top of my head right now. And then we also have some 2.5 millimeter, which are these little pink ones. So you're going to need, per earring, you're going to need 6 pink ones, so 12 if you're doing a pair. You're going to need 3 of your 4 millimeters, okay? So the little ones are the 2.5 millimeters, so 6 of those. 3 per earring of your 4 millimeters, so 6 in total. And then you only need 2 of your 3 millimeters, just for right here. So you'll only need 4 for a pair, okay? Then we are also using here some half Tilas, beautiful blue color. And these are on the back, part of the back, okay? So you can't really see them, but they do help with our bezel. The ones that came in our collection, this is the item number, and half Tilas are made by Miyuki. So these are Miyuki half Tilas, that's the item number, okay? You're gonna also need some 11 seed beads, again, Miyuki. These came in the collection as well, and this is the item number. Such a nice matte, like bronze brown color. It's a great, I think it's a lovely color for, like your background. And then you're going to need either some Toho Treasures or some Miyuki Delicas. So we got Treasures in our collection in this gorgeous white lined baby blue. Again, you don't see these. They are part of the bezel for the fancy stone. So they are just on the back like that, okay? So see them there in that figure of 8 or infinity. I guess it's more like an infinity, but yeah. So that's all the beads and 3 millimeter pearls. So these are some Krakovski pearls that, again, came in the collection. Absolutely gorgeous pink color, and they are here on the front. So you will need 6 of those per earring, okay? You'll need 4 half Tilas per earring, so 8 in total. And just a small pile of beads. Okay, I'm also using today, I am using 8-pound Fireline, but I would say use 6. The only reason I'm using 8 is because I ran out of 6. So let's say 6-pound Fireline. And a size 10 beading needle should be fine. We don't have any 15-0s in this design, so you shouldn't have any struggles getting through beads several times with your thread. Okay, so let me get started. Okay, so to begin, leave a 4-inch tail as you normally would at the end. Just kind of hold onto your tail, and what we're going to do is we're going to pick up 3 of our 11-0s and 1 of our pearls. And if your pearls, they come on a strand, sometimes they have these little like extra bits of coating that are on the string, you know, in between. So what you can do is just kind of gently roll them around on your mat, and sometimes that just gets off. Yeah, see, there's a bit that's come off. It gets off some of those extra little bits just at where the holes are. Okay. All right, so 3 11-0s and then 1 pearl, and then 1 11-0, 1 pearl, 1 11-0, 1 pearl, and 3 11-0s. Okay, so we have 3, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 3. Okay, push that down to where you're holding your tail, and you're going to repeat the exact same again. So 3 11-0s, 1 pearl, 3 11-0s, sorry, 1 11-0, 1 pearl. I got distracted because I heard a lawnmower. I was like, oh no. 1, 1, and 3. Okay, so exact same thing again that we picked up previously. So 3, 1 pearl, 1 11-0, 1 pearl, 1 11-0, 1 pearl, and 3 again. And then push those all down as well. So you should have this on your thread, and you're just going to sew up through the first 3 beads and the pearl. Okay, and pull to make that into a ring. And here you can adjust your tail if you want it a little shorter or a little longer. So it looks like this. All right, so coming out here, I'm going to pick up 5 of my 11-0s. And I'm going to go into, I'm coming out this side of the pearl, I'm going to go into the other side of the pearl, plus I'm going to go through the next seed bead and the next pearl. So came out here, I'm going into this pearl, this seed bead, and the next pearl. And I'm going to pull, and it's going to make a little loop like that. Okay. Now this time we're going to pick up 4. So last time we picked up 5, this time we're only picking up 4. And our 5th one is going to be this one right here. Okay. So coming out here, you're going to sew into the first one of that group of 5 right there. You're going to sew into that one, and then you're going to sew straight into the pearl, the 11-0, and the next pearl. So I'm not sewing into that bead there. Okay, this 11-0. I'm going into this bead, and then pearl, 11-0, pearl. And I'm going to repeat again. So you're going to pick up 4. Again, you're going to go into this one right here, this 11-0, and then into the pearl. So don't go into the seed bead right here. Just go into this one, the pearl, and the next 3 beads. Okay. So you should now have 3 loops like this. You're going to pick up 3 and you're going to sew down into the last bead on the loop, plus the next 2 beads. So you're skipping the one next to the pearl, you're going to skip this one. So you're going into this one and these 2 and pull. Okay, so that is most of one side complete. Okay, now we're going to pass through 3 beads. Okay, so you're coming out right here. Then you're going to pick up 4. You're going to sew through those 3 beads plus the next pearl. So I'm going through 1, 2, 3 plus the pearl. You're going to pick up 4. You're going to sew into this bead right here, okay? And this bit's a little bit different. So then you're going to sew through the bead right before the pearl and the pearl. Okay, plus the next bead and the next pearl. Okay, so I sewed into this bead here, and then I went into the bead right before the pearl, the next bead, and the next pearl. Okay, you're going to pull that. Then you're going to pick up 4 again. And just like what we did on the other side, you're going into the bead on the curve and then straight into the pearl, through the next seed bead and the next pearl. Again, 4. You're going into the last bead on the curve plus the next pearl plus the next 3 beads. You're going to pick up 3 beads. You're going into the last bead here, and then you're going to skip the first bead. You're just going through the last 2 right here, okay, like this. So I'm going through this one plus these 2. So you should be back where your tail is. And then you're going to sew up through the first 2 beads on the other side, just 2, okay. You're going to sew up through this first bead on the curve right here, just that very first bead. So you're coming out, you came out 2, and then you went up there, okay? And then you're going to pick up 3, and you can sew up through the 3 beads, the pearl, and sew all the way up until you get up to the other side. So sew all the way up through the pearls and the seed beads. So right now I'm going through those 3, just sew all the way up that side. All right. So I'm coming out right here. I'm going to sew down the first 2 beads. And then I'm going to sew up until I come out from the 3rd bead on the group of 5 going over the pearl, okay? So you want to come out from the 3rd bead. you're going to pick up one of your Tilas, and remember that Tilas do have a top and a bottom, so one side is usually slightly more curved than the other. So on mine, the right hand side is the top. So I want to pick it up so that the bottom is going to be on the top and the right side, the more curved side, is going to be on the bottom, and it's going to be laying like this. So that is my flat side, so I want that to be laying like this. All right, so try and pick it up. I mean, it doesn't really matter, no one will notice, but if you want to do it right. Okay, so coming out from the third bead here, I'm going to count on the next group of 5, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to go into that third bead on the next group. And my Tila is going to just sit like this. And here you might want to start pulling upwards a little bit. So we're creating our bezel. So now see when it flips over, the curved side is now on the top. So if my flat side was on when it was like this, when it closes over, then the curved side's on the outside, okay? Like I said, doesn't matter too much. It's not a huge, big deal, but you know, just helps. Okay, again, pick up another Tila in the same way, and you're going to go 1, 2, 3 on this group over the pearl, and you're going to go into that third one. Okay, so you should now have 2 Tilas like this, and when they flip, they should be on the right side. You're going to pick up 2 of your treasures, and you're going to go into so there's 1 here that's kind of part of this group, and then there's 3 here. You're going to go into the first of the 3 that's not part of the group going over the pearl. So this one right here. Okay, so you should have your 2 treasures there. Then you're going to pick up 3 of your treasures, and you're going to go all the way over. See this outer group right here? From where the gap is, 1, 2, 3, you're going into that third bead. So it's a really big jump. Okay. And this is going to start cupping up, kind of like a canoe or a boat shape, okay? And you're going to pick up 2 more of your treasures. And you're going to look at where your pearls are. You're going to go 1, 2, 3, go into that third bead. Then again, you're going to pick up a Tila. Again, you want it to face the same way, and you're going to look at your next group of 5, 1, 2, 3, go into the third one. Same thing again. Pick up a Tila. Look at the next group. 1, 2, 3, go into the third bead above the pearl. And as you're doing this, you can be pulling inwards and kind of forming the shape of your bezel, okay? Then again, we're going to pick up 2 of our treasures. We're going to go into, of that group of 3, the first one that's not the one down below. It's like the individual little group, okay? Like this. Then you're going to pick up 3 more treasures. You're going to go into the third one all the way over on this side. I know it's like a crazy big jump, but okay. And then to finish off, we're just going to add in 2 more treasures. And you're going to go into the bead that is right before the Tila. You can go ahead, pass through the Tila and through the next few beads. Come out from the second Tila. Okay, so go through the seed bead, Tila, seed bead, Tila. Okay, so you should now have a shape like this. Okay, it kind of looks like that. You're gonna take your stone and you're gonna get it in there. If you're wondering why I have a scratch on mine, it's because I've made this and taken it apart multiple times. So this poor stone has taken a little bit of a beating, but you shouldn't have that, that issue on yours, okay? All right, so it is now in there. Make sure it's the right way up when you flip it over, okay? All right, so I'm coming out from this Tila right here. I'm going to skip my seed bead, my round, and I'm going to sew into my next two treasures. Okay, so on this bit, you're just going to skip any round beads and we're only using the treasures. Okay, so go ahead, sew into those, skip that next round bead, sew into the first treasure and the third treasure. So you're skipping the second treasure on that group of 3 at the top. Okay, and pull in, and then skip the seed bead, go into the next 2 treasures right here. And again, you're kind of pulling inwards, okay? Then you're going to pick up 1 treasure. You're going to sew into the first half Tila, the inner hole, okay, on that first half Tila right there. And I did that wrong. There we go. Then you're going to pick up 1 of your treasures and you're going to sew into the next half Tila. And you don't need to pull this bit super tight because we have to come back in a second, okay? So like this. So you have that one in there. You're going to pick up 1 more of your treasures and you're going to sew into the 2 treasures on the side. And as you're doing this, try and keep the back of your stone centered in your bezel. Okay, see that ridge right there? You want to try and keep that as centered as you can. All right, here we're skipping our seed bead and we're sewing through the first and the third treasure. Okay. And pull that. And then sew through the next 2 treasures. I'm pulling inwards the whole time and I'm readjusting the whole time. Then you're going to pick up another treasure. You're going to sew into, you're going to sew into that first Tila. And this is where it gets fun. Here, you're going to sew into this treasure that is between the 2 Tilas on the other side. And you don't want to break your Tila. So you don't need to pull super tight right this second. You kind of want to pull in, but if it's not super tight, that's okay. You don't want to break your Tila, your treasure, okay? What we're going to do once we come back here is we're going to do a figure of 8 so that our thread is actually what's holding it together, not this bead. But right now, this bead is the only thing that's pulling it in. So be super careful here, okay? Then you're going to sew through the next half Tila. And you're going to pick up 1 more of your treasures and go into those first 2 treasures there, okay? Okay, so you should have now like a figure 8 or infinity, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna sew around all of our treasures and our Tilas, and we're gonna follow that pattern I just said. So you're gonna go this way. Here, you're gonna go through here and you're gonna cross to the other side. Then you're gonna go here and you're gonna go through here. And what that's gonna do is then our threads will be pulling the 2 sides together and not this poor little bead right here who has all the pressure on, okay? So I'm gonna speed through that really quickly. Okay, so once you are finished with that, you can just check that your stone is centered, and if you need to like massage one side or kind of turn it a little, you can at this point. So just do any massaging that you need to do. So you should be coming out from the two treasures right before the point, okay? So we're going to sew up into our 11-0 and the next two 11-0s right here. Okay, so once you come out from the 3 there, you can flip over to the front and you'll be coming out the kind of upper hole here. So we have kind of 2 here, 2 up here. You're going to pick up one of your 2.5 millimeter Bicones and you're going to sew straight into the 3 beads on the other side on the back 3 beads, okay? And you can kind of adjust that with your needle so it kind of sits straight, but we will be reinforcing this bead in a minute, so if it's not perfect, don't worry, just be careful with the crystals. As I'm sure you know, they do have sharp edges, okay? All right, so you're coming down towards the back, down those 3 beads, okay? You're going to pick up 2 of your 11-0s, 1 of your 2.5s, and again, 2 more 11-0s. And you're coming out here, you're going to sew into the middle pearl, just the pearl. And it's going to create a little ridge like this, okay? So it kind of goes from the back to the front. And if you need to, you can kind of, again, massage the beads so that they sit nicely, okay? And we're going to repeat again. So you're going to pick up 2 seed beads, a bicone, and 2 more seed beads. Okay, and you're going to sew into, so you see these 3 right here at the end that go upwards. You're going to sew into those 3. So it should be coming out right at the point on the outside edge, okay? So sew into those 3. Again, if you need to kind of massage to get them to sit nicely. So it should look like this, okay? You're going to then add another of our 2.5 millimeter pearls. So we're coming out the top here. We're going to go into the next 3 11-0s. Okay, so on the back, you're coming out these 3, you're going into those 3. So we're not going in the middle ones here that are by our stone. It's the ones up above, okay? Okay, and then we're going to repeat what we did on the other side. So you're going to pick up 2, one of your bicones and 2, and you're going through that middle pearl. Kind of massage it so it sits nicely, and repeat again, 2, a pearl, and 2, and you're going up into the last 3 that lead up to your crystal in the middle, okay? Right, so it now looks like this, and just try and keep your tail out of the way. We're going to weave that in right at the end, okay? So don't worry too much about that right now. Okay, so now we're going to continue on. Actually, no, we're going to start our little hanging loop here, okay? So I did try and do a loop from this bead here, but what happened was that when you're wearing it, it kind of tipped forward a little bit like this so that you could see the front, sure, but this did not shine as much. But this, the way it goes, because it kind of leans forward, it makes the crystal tilt up just ever so slightly. It's hardly noticeable, but it picks up the light better when you're wearing it. You don't want it to hang down. You want people to see it. That's why we're doing our loop the way we're doing it. Okay, so we're going to pick up 4 of our seed beads. And again, just keep that tail to the front, okay? You're going to go straight down the next 3 brown beads. So we're just skipping straight over our bicone, and we're going down the next 3 beads. Okay, so you should have a little kind of loop like this, and we're going to add a bead at the top in a minute. It's just right now we're just doing 4. Okay, so it looks like this, and then you're going to sew up through the 2 beads before your bicone, the bicone, and then the bead after the bicone, but not the very last one. Skip that last one, okay? So you're going to sew up those ones. So we're coming out from the bead right after the bicone, okay? You're going to pick up 1 seed bead, 1 4mm bicone, and 1 seed bead. And then you're going to sew into the second bead, the one right before the next pink bicone here, okay? So you're going to sew down through that bead and the bicone and the next bead. So you're going through the one before the bicone, and the next one. And pull, and you can kind of massage that into position, okay? Then you're going to pick up 2 seed beads, 1 of your 3mm bicones, which are these blue ones, and 2 more seed beads, and another 4mm bicone, and 1 more seed bead. Okay, so you're picking up 2 3mm bicone, 2 4mm bicone, and 1. Okay, you're going to push all that down. You're going to skip the bottom seed bead, and you're going to sew up through just that bicone. And here I would recommend that you grab hold of your seed bead and pull it so that there is no slack. And then you're going to want to train it to sit flat, okay? So try and get the tension so that it will sit straight. You can adjust it in a second with your needle, okay? So coming out from the bicone, we're going to pick up 2 of your 11/0s, 1 of your 3mm bicones, and 2 more 11/0s, and you're going to sew into the seed bead before the pink bicone, through the pink bicone, and into the next seed bead above the pink bicone like this, okay? And when you pull all of this, it's going to create this little kind of triangular shape here, okay? And I'm just trying to adjust with my tension. I'm just trying to use my needle to straighten that bottom bead. You want to try and get it right the way you want it right now, okay? All right, so it should look like this, okay? Then you're going to pick up 1 seed bead, 1 4mm bicone, and 1 seed bead. You're coming out from the seed bead right after the 3mm. You're going to skip seed bead, pearl, seed bead, and you're going into the seed bead before the pink bicone, plus through the next bicone, plus the next 2 seed beads. Okay, so you're going through the bead before the bicone, and 2, going downwards. Okay, and pull, and you can kind of, again, if you need to squeeze them in or out, do a little adjusting if you need to. Okay, that's looking pretty good except for this bead right here. Okay. So now you're going to sew up through the next 3 beads. Just follow the brown, the seed beads, okay? So you're going up through those 3, plus the next 2, which are our loop, our hanging loop, okay? You're going to pick up 1 more seed bead, and then you're going to go down the other side right here. So go down all 5 of those beads. All right, so this should look kind of pointy, like a little point, and it should be leaning forward a little bit, but once we get our jump ring in, it'll kind of straighten up a little bit, okay? All right, so now you've basically finished. Now, if you want to, you can go around and reinforce these side crystals, which I would recommend, but you also need to reinforce this middle bit to kind of pull it in, and if you have a big gap, you might want to even put in a 15-0 just to kind of cover that gap right there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just reinforce the outer crystals because they are going to get a lot of like hitting on stuff, and you know, I don't usually reinforce the bottom loop because I kind of want that to just be able to move, and because I'm using size 8 Fireline, mine is pretty sturdy already. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow these beads here, and I'm going to reinforce this crystal right here. But you can reinforce anything that you think needs reinforcing on yours, okay? So I'm reinforcing that bottom crystal. Okay, so I reinforced my outside crystals. They feel pretty, you know, firm. I'm probably going to reinforce this inner bit and just pull this section in just a tiny bit, and then I can tie off and sew in my end. Okay, so I'll do that off screen. That is the bulk of the earring, and then we'll just attach our jump ring with our lovely vignette earring wire, and that will be our earrings complete. Okay guys, so here are the Selkie Secret earrings all finished, and I just absolutely love how they came out. They are so elegant. They're not huge, they're a nice size, but really very, very pretty. I love all the colors, especially that central blue in them, and I just think they came out lovely. I just love this collection. I could make at least 3 more projects out of it. But anyway, I do have a discount code if you are interested in purchasing anything from Eureka Beads, or Eureka Crystal Beads. The code is valid until the end of October, and you can only use 1 code per order, okay? And you can only use this once. You personally can only use it once. So the code is Jules15, okay? And I think it's for new customers only. I'm not entirely sure about that, but so if you love the collection as much as I do and you want to get it, you can get 15% off with that code, okay? Or if you don't want the collection but you want to buy some other things, you can use it for that as well, okay? All right, so I did promise you a little story to go with the earrings. So for those of you who don't know what a selkie is, in Scottish and Irish folklore, a selkie is a seal that sheds its skin and goes on the shore and becomes a human. And they are very beautiful and alluring. It's kind of similar to like a mermaid tail, except that they're seals, okay? They can be male or female, and usually the selkie at the end, they're usually kind of sad, and at the end the selkie leaves, goes back into the sea. Or sometimes it's because somebody's hidden their coat and they can't turn back into a seal, and then they're sad because they can't return to the sea. So anyway, you need to know that background for this story. So one day there's some seals, a brother and a sister, and they are frolicking along the shore, and the brother seal becomes entangled in a discarded old fisherman's net that's all ripped and torn, and he gets very stuck. And at that moment, there is a nobleman who lives nearby who frequently walks along the shoreline, and he sees the seal, and the sister swims away and hides behind a rock to watch what's going to happen. So the nobleman is a kind-hearted nobleman, and he feels terrible for this stuck brother seal, and he manages to get his knife out and cut the net away from the seal and return the seal to the sea. So the sister sees all of this, and she's so incredibly grateful and falls in love with the nobleman immediately because of his kind-hearted nature. So she swims down into the ocean, and she finds little pearls, she finds little pebbles, little bits of rock, and she makes a very elegant pair of earrings. And in the middle, she puts some of the magic from the ocean. She goes onto the shore, sheds her seal skin, and stores the seal skin within the magic of the earrings. And she puts on the earrings in her human form. Another day, the nobleman happens to walk along the shore, and she sees him coming and makes sure that they meet. They fall in love immediately, of course, and get married and live more or less happily ever after. However, she does find all the parties and the socializing very exhausting in her new lifestyle as a noblewoman. So in the evenings, especially in the summer when the nights are so long, it can look like this at, nearly midnight in the islands. So in the evenings, she walks along the shore and thinks about her brother, and sometimes she takes off her earrings, puts on her seal skin, swims off into the sea, meets her brother, comes back, okay? So one time she does this, she takes off her earrings, she just lays them in the sand, goes off swimming, and the nobleman suddenly is wondering, where's my wife? I know she went out for a walk. He walks along the shore and he finds her earrings, but nothing else. Now these are the magic earrings. He picks them up, takes them home. She cannot return. She cannot lose her coat, store her coat safely, and so she never goes back to him. But he always has the earrings in order to remember her. So that's my little story about the earrings. It's a little bit sad, but it's also really pretty. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and I will see you guys in my next video. Take care for now. Bye.